Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of TokYo-Yo. My name is T. Thanks for the likes, the comments, and subscriptions. As always, we've just passed 800. That is mind-blowing to me. You guys are awesome. Thanks so much for your support. Let's keep this thing going. Remember, giveaway at 1,000. And the next giveaway is going to be quite a challenge, just like the last one. But I'm really excited to tell you guys about it. So let's keep going. So today we're getting back into reviews. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Duncan Origami. So is this yo-yo a work of art, or is it just going to fold up under the pressure? So let's take a look at our origami here. So this is I guess you call it an H hybrid yo-yo. It's quite rim weighted up here. You do have a lot of weight pushed out. It's kind of a wider, it feels like kind of a wider yo-yo. It is designed for 5A after all. This is the signature model of Brian Jardin, so it makes sense that he would design a yo-yo that would be good for 5A. But I feel like it also has a hint of V. There's kind of a slope going up here too, so I feel like this kind of defies the traditional shape hierarchy. The cup is quite nice. You're going to see this little design in here, this very nice little pattern inside the very inner rim here. You've got the engraving. You've also see it says Duncan in there. Then you've got of course the little origami paper crane on the axle hub. Around near the rim you see the name of the designer, Brian Jardin. At the bottom you see the name Origami. Overall, I think the cup has a lot of really nice stuff going on, which we'll talk about very soon. The material is an extremely smooth 6061. It does look glossy, but it's quite satiny. This thing is amazing at grinds. It feels extremely full in the hand. It does feel a bit on the wide side, which I kind of like, and it feels like a strong yo-yo. It really does feel like it can put up with anything you throw at it. As soon as you put it in your hand, you feel like, oh yeah, okay, you kind of get a sense that this thing has some power lurking in it. And the look is just so beautiful. It's got this really gorgeous pink. I've mentioned recently I really love pink yo-yos. I love the design of the cup here. You've got so many different cuts going on, going into the inner ring. I know what I've said about engravings, but I really like the origami here and inside here. And actually, this doesn't interfere with finger spins as much as you might think. More on that later. I'm really hoping it shows up on this video, but this splash is so incredibly clean. I've got this strung up with the bazooka blue zipline strings. Also, the Bubble Vicious looks really, really nice on this, but either way you go with zipline, with the Dylan Kowalski signatures, I think they both look absolutely incredible on this one. So let's get into the history of the Duncan Origami. As I mentioned before, this is the signature model of Brian Jardin, as you can see here on the rim. This was designed for him as a really legendary 5A player. You can really feel that it does have a lot of the sensibility of a 5A yo-yo. It's a little on the bigger side, a little wider, makes landing those pretty intricate and pretty flashy, huge tricks that 5A is so famous for more easy. So actually I'd had my eye on the origami for a long time, and I got this for myself as a Father's Day gift. I actually asked Remy Baskin of Duncan for advice. I have interviewed Remy on TokYo-Yo Talk before, so if you'd like to, you can go check out that interview. Remy recommended the origami very highly, and I can see why. It's a pretty incredible and versatile yo-yo. This was only the second Duncan I got. The first was the Windrunner. As for playability of the origami, this has a very interesting feel. It's very bulbous. It goes straight from the bearing and the response up to this little bump here, and then it goes up to the rim. It sort of reminds me of the Shutter, but I think this one is a little bit sleeker the way it does it. The Shutter feels a little more bubbly, if that makes sense, a little more rounded off. This thing plays quick and confident, which I didn't expect it feeling a little bit bigger in the hand than some yo-yos, especially since I've been playing things like the Veritas Pro. So I've gotten much more used to smaller yo-yos, and this has been a lot of fun to use. So it does play a lot faster and more zippy than you'd think for its size. And it lands on the string really nicely. I feel like it's extremely stable, probably because of the wider shape. I'm sure you'll understand what I mean when I say this thing feels really reliable. I don't feel like it would ever turn on you or tilt on you unless you really forced it to. It's been designed especially with stability in mind. I feel like a lot of yo-yos are starting to pick up on finger grinds again, which is pretty cool. This thing just sits on your finger totally perfectly. Not much of a thumb grind lip. It's really hard to get your thumb in there, and even if you throw it at tilt, there's not much of an IRG in there, so don't expect any thumb grind. Now, one thing that did surprise me is this thing finger spins really, really well, especially if you can kind of catch it at an angle and let it spin around a little bit. But I expected the engraving and the little axle nub here to get in the way of finger spins, and I suppose if you let it spin out and go for a really long time that might be the case, but actually I find this thing finger spins extremely smoothly, and whipping it with a bind, getting it into a bind from a finger spin is really easy, and it makes that really satisfying ping sound when you bind it too, which is really nice. I can't remember where I read it, but there was a blurb somewhere about the origami on a website where they mentioned that the response was really solid, and I absolutely agree. It makes catching this thing in a finger spin or in a more intricate bind or anything like that, it makes it extremely reliable. It feels like it's always going to come back to you. I've heard that these red Duncan stickers are just really reliable, and I'm here to tell you they absolutely are. This comes with the TokYo-Yo licensed bearing, which is actually super smooth. One thing I should mention about the smoothness of this yo-yo, it's actually incredibly smooth on the string. You can't feel any vibe. There is a tiny bit of nail vibe, which actually I thought, okay, well, I'll switch the bearing out and I'll tune the axle a little bit. That actually made it worse. I switched it out for another bearing and it got a lot more vibration in it. Put the original bearing back in and it seemed to fix the problem. So I think it just needed a little axle tuning or something. And I may just need to tune it a little bit more. I'm still getting the hang of tuning my yo-yo, so that's probably just on me. And if anybody has any tips on how to tune the origami to perfection, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear it. And the color is just great, you know? I just love playing with yo-yos like this. They're just exciting, they're fun to play because they're so flashy and pretty, and they're really eye-catching too, so when you're playing for other people, I think it's really fun for people watching too. Alright, let's get into pros and cons of the Duncan Origami. First pro, I think this thing feels a little big and I like that. I mentioned before it feels strong. As soon as you get it in your hand and as soon as you throw it, you're gonna feel that. You're gonna feel that power. I really like a yo-yo that has confidence. Even when you first grab it, you feel like, oh yeah, this thing's gonna be fun to play. Gorgeous color. Love the pink, love the blue. They just blend together so perfectly, and the splash is incredibly perfect. I don't see any color bleed, any problems. There's no blemishes. Just gorgeous. It's very reliable. It's very stable, as I mentioned, which of course you would expect from somebody who's a 5A player. I imagine, I've never tried 5A that much, but I imagine stability is high up on your list, especially when you need things to stay absolutely in plane most of the time. And it's a very long spinner. I actually practiced learning Jade Whip on this, and I must have been throwing that trick when I was first practicing for like 3 minutes and never noticed a slowdown on this thing. It is a very long spinner. As far as cons, I guess the only thing I would mention is that I'm still trying to figure out where the perfect balance of tuning is for this. So every time I open a yo-yo, I get a little scared that I'm going to strip it, so I am extremely careful with this. That said, I've taken the origami apart a few times and I've never had a problem with it getting vibier. The only time it got worse was when I put a different bearing in. So I would say leave the original bearing in and just mess around with the axle, see if you can get it perfectly tuned for yourself. So again, like I said, if anyone has any ideas of where this thing plays perfectly, you can let me know in the comments. But I don't really think that's a con because it plays really smooth once it's on the string. And our final segment of the show, who's the Duncan Origami for? I think the origami is a good yo-yo for someone who's into like a higher end, more quality feeling yo-yo. This thing feels extremely nice, and it does have a price tag that comes with it, so I paid almost $70 for this. I think that's also, it's a little bit more in Japan, and also it had a really fancy colorway, but it is a little bit more on the pricey side. If you have the scratch and you want to spend money on a higher end Duncan and you're looking for something extremely reliable, extremely long spinning with really sweet colors, then I think the origami could be a really good pick for you. Alright guys, that's going to do it for the review today. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the review. Lots more content coming soon, more TokYo-Yo talk in the works, more reviews in the work. I got more tutorials coming out. It's going to be a busy year, and that's exciting. Remember, let's get me up to 1,000 subscribers. When I hit 1,000, you're going to get a special giveaway. Also, when I hit 100 videos, something very special is going to come, so get ready for that too. Anyway guys, thanks so much for watching. Take care, have a nice day, and sayonara.